And let's be honest, this team has had zero consistency. Like the first season that Messi leaves the club, which in itself was going to be hard as hell. It's not like, I like to make this example. When Madrid lost Cristiano Ronaldo, they still had a Karim Benzema to fall back, and a Karim Benzema that had been a vital part in winning 4 Champions Leagues. They still had Sergio Ramos. They still had Toni Kroos, Modric to kind of ease the pain a little bit and soften the blow.
Let me throw the forward stat at you real quick.
Yeah.
Xavi has used 12 forward lines. That is the most since he showed up. That is the most forward lines of any team in the league. And he has never once replicated the same front three. Right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Consistency? Yeah, no consistency.
So there's no consistency whatsoever. Koeman had the same problem at the start. Obviously, I'm not going to get into Koeman, but just like making the whole picture. That in itself, losing the first season after losing Messi was going to be hard to sell. On top of that, the whole hope, after the first Star Wars movie where Luke Skywalker is like looking at the sunset, like A New Hope. It was like, oh, we can't wait till Ansu Fati comes back, Dembele comes back, adding that mixture with Sergio Aguero. We know he's old, but for the league, we can get by with that front three. Blah blah. Ansu Fati, I don't even want to talk about it because I'm still depressed. The whole Dembele thing finally he's been fit again, but then throw in a wrench with his whole renewal thing, and we don't even have him. Aguero almost died and had to retire. So it's just crazy how everything that could have gone wrong in the first post-Messi season has gone wrong. And a guy that's not in the forward line, but we just talked about him, so vital, Pedri, in providing stuff for that forward line, creating stuff. And right now, it's the first time that we've had him the entire season, and we've seen the difference that he makes for this team. So it's just so hard to judge this Barcelona team and everybody involved, because this is like a well-oiled, it's like the Power Rangers when they made the robot. It's like, well, different parts make one, but these parts, they've never played together. And then you had a little Des here who hasn't played with Ferran in front of him. Then the front three, it's just so different. And every starting 11, it's just something so different that it's just hard, man. It's the ugly truth.
Well, I think you're also seeing issues where, and this is the De Jong conundrum, because I want to do De Jong now, that a lot of these players don't necessarily fit together, but they're the best players that Barca could keep around. And the squad has been built, again, dealing with losing players to XYZ. And you could even call the Dembele contract still just another scar from the Bartomeu era. And Barca is still cleaning up all these different messes, including having not renewed. I mean, and if reports to be believed, no matter who was president, Dembele was always going to be leaving on that free. But Barca kind of always believed that he would resign, and he always said that he wouldn't resign. But there must be something else out there, and we've talked and done the Dembele thing. But now that ship has sailed. Back to De Jong, because De Jong is going to be a Barcelona player moving forward, and I think even in that match, I think it's almost unfair to Xavi to think of that match against Alaves as the same from the first to the second half, because the first half was real rough. I mean, it was in all those different ways where Barca last time Alaves played them, they played with a low block with 5 men, but this time it was a 4-4-2, very, very narrow, because when Barca struggle, and this has been, any team who has the possession like Barca want to have the possession, they're going to struggle with a narrow anything, but they played a 4-4-2 with some soft pressure at the point of the attack, and then a beehive in the midfield around De Jong and Busquets in particular. And Barca, far too slow, and couldn't move the block to create any gaps. It was just too many long balls, diagonals, side to side. The ball would be in the air for too long. And then key players weren't receiving with any numerical superiority to go on the weak side once they crossed the ball over. There also weren't enough near post runs coming off of those long diagonal balls either on those long diagonal crosses. And looking in particular at the weaknesses and the ways that Alaves, even a team like Alaves, can pinpoint Barcelona's issues, that Piqué and Araujo in particular weren't dribbling forward into that open space. They weren't doing it almost at all in that first half, especially. And that's because Araujo is not, we talk about confidence. He doesn't trust his playmaking enough to be able to break any line. So he doesn't dribble into the space, because he knows if he dribbles into that space and then loses the ball, Now Barca's caught on the counter. Same thing with PK, where PK physically, he can read the game and be in the right spots, especially when the other team is trying to play out. But if he's going to play out and one of his teammates, like say he gives it to Busquets and Busquets immediately gives it up, then Barca are definitely on the back heels. And he knows physically in 1v1 situations, that's a rough place for him to be. So now you don't have your two center backs progressively dribbling in that space. And as mean as people have been, or angry as people have been about Eric Garcia not being the second coming of Puyol, he's been a huge absence as far as playing progressive passes and dribbling into space and just moving around those low blocks and those medium blocks and moving around some of those narrow pieces. So everything changed for Barca when two things happened. One, when the extra midfielder in Nico came in, that allowed De Jong to get forward. And you could look at De Jong's heat map. In that first half, he was much farther to the wing, where he just absolutely does not belong. And then when Nico came on, he basically, he had the extra body in midfield and created those numerical advantages, which is also that change to the 3-4-3, where I understand why Xavi didn't want to trust Dest as the third center back for an entire game. That makes a lot of sense to me. But to try the 4-3-3, where in theory, all of those guys are more natural where they need to be, but he had to basically sacrifice anything that Dest could give him going forward to be the center back, because you had to overload the middle. And that was a tactical change that Xavi made that did work out. And I know that the goal was in the 87th minute and it feels a little bit like luck, but it wasn't, because De Jong was so much more effective in that second half, changing his positioning, as I said, from going from the wing to the middle of the field against and creating those numerical advantages, and also pushing forward a bit more, because once Nico came on, again, you had that extra body in defense, meaning De Jong had the ability to go forward and not worry about what he was leaving in behind. So, I mean, why would De Jong ever pick up the ball within 10 meters of the sideline, which where he kept picking it up? Where's he going to go? What progressive dribbling is going to occur from that spot on the field? And he did it in the first half time and time again. And that's why, yeah, I mean, I keep going back to the unit thing, because I know we're going to hit Dest, we're going to hit Abde, and you can hit anybody you want. But other than Pedri, who I think in this match showed you that you could plop that kid in our Sunday teams or whatever, and he's just going to fit. Like, he's just going to fit like a glove, because Pedri is just talented enough. And you saw him gesturing at PK and Busquets, like, hey, play the ball over there, play the ball over there. And for me, it's like, I mean, institutionally, I understand that Busquets and PK are making the right decisions, but I'm also like, maybe Pedri's right. Like, maybe Pedri knows what he's talking about here, as far as like just moving that ball a little quicker. And it's true. La Liga as a whole has been slower. And one of our patrons, Mara, always says that. And it's true. Like, La Liga passing, the ball movement, it's all been a lot slower. And we want Spanish football in general to kind of raise their level. And Barca has certainly been the poster child of that. But yeah, I think, how do you get Barca to move the ball quicker without changing this personnel? That was the question I had in the second half. Right? How do you break it down with that same 11? Because I think it's lazy. It's not lazy for somebody on Twitter, but it's lazy for you and I, Rafa, who comment and think about the team as much, to say, oh, well, if we had Erling Haaland instead of Luke de Jong, you have a different result. No, duh. Of course, probably you do. You probably do have a different result. Of course, because Erling Haaland runs onto those three balls that Luke de Jong doesn't, and Barca won 3-0 in the first half. So, you know what I mean? Like, it's a different story. But with those exact pieces staying the same, because that's what's going to be. Now you have no Dembele. Now you're talking about Abde. How do you deal with all of Abde's issues? How do you deal with the shortcomings of Alves or Dest or Mingueza or an injured Sergio Roberto? Because your right back is not the right back you need, but you're going to have to make do with one of the four right backs you have. So what can Xavi do about that? And I think it's going to depend on the game and please give me an answer, Rafa.
Thing is that no, it's complicated, and I don't think there's a straight up answer. I think this is what Xavi's trying to figure out with the ingredients that he has right now, and that's why I always, and some people call me a Koeman apologist, and I think Xavi is the best coach for Barcelona right now and going forward. And I thought it was time to let Koeman go. But what I'm trying to get at is that even Xavi has, in a way, in his own words, I know Koeman got a lot of slack for saying, like, it is what it is. It's lo que hay, or this is what we have, and you got to get used to it. Like, there's a shortage of talent. And Xavi has said it in his own kind of way. And I think that's not funny because I'm a Barcelona fan, but that Xavi has, I think, in a way, like, whoa, he came in, oh no, we're gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and then the reality has like hit him in the face, like, yeah, you you want to make a pizza, but you don't have the exact ingredients that you need to make the pizza you want. So I think Xavi's still trying to figure that out. And in that sense, I think the biggest conundrum, and nobody has figured that out, is Frenkie de Jong. What's his best position? A lot of people say that he should be playing in the Busquets role. He's played some games in the past in that role, not a lot, and he hasn't been that great. Other people say, oh no, but when he played with Ajax, which was when he like came into the world and everybody fell in love with him, he was playing alongside another more stationary midfielder, and he had basically license to roam around and do whatever he wanted. So some people are calling for him to play alongside Nico, so that Nico could be that more fixated central midfielder, and Frenkie could have that freedom.
He really isn't, by the way. That's not what Nico is either. So just throwing it out there.
That's exactly why I'm bringing this up. And other people are like, no, Frenkie should play with Busquets, but make those late runs and forward runs that Koeman wanted him to make, and he made under Koeman, and Xavi is insisting so much that he makes right now. So it's such a big internal debate within Barcelona's fan base, and I think that exemplifies that the struggles of this Barcelona team that we got. I mean, nobody can deny Frenkie de Jong's talent. It's clear, like he is very, very, very talented, but it's like a diamond that could be worth so much more, and for some reason nobody has the answer yet, or has found the answer to the solution. It's just like it's like, oh my God, it's just, there's something missing. Frenkie could be so much more. And we've talked about this. I've talked about this with you on this podcast numerous times. Everybody has said it, but nobody knows the code to the problem. And it's just so frustrating to watch, because then I don't know if this is going to happen or not, but I don't know. I don't want us to, if that ends up being the case, sell Frenkie de Jong because we couldn't quite figure out how to use him. And then you see him with a Bayern Munich or a Chelsea team, and he becomes what we all wanted him to become. And that'll be frustrating and really sad to watch as a Barcelona fan, because we had that player and we just couldn't get the best out of him.